When was the last time you saw a really great comedy? I want you to be honest with me. The last time you saw a new release that succeeded at the same kind of gut-busting hilarity provided by the icons of the genre, while still managing to succeed at an under-the-surface sort of depth in the same way that the greats do. A comedy that makes you laugh, sure, but a comedy that makes you think or feel something outside of, haha, that guy just got hit in the nuts. It takes a special kind of writing to achieve this, and I think this style has been perfected by Joel and Ethan Coen. Many a time have I chuckled and gasped consecutively within the same scene as a result of the Coen boys' masterful balancing of tone. And there is no primer example of this than the 1998 classic, The Big Lebowski. There are tons of scenes in this movie that are laugh-out-loud funny, but there are just as many lines that are bound to make you stop and go, huh, never thought of it that way. For those of you who haven't seen The Big Lebowski yet, let me pitch it to you. The Big Lebowski is a movie about a man named Jeffrey Lebowski. He insists on going by the dude, and he's goofy, aloof, and smokes a lot of pot and just kind of minds his own business while hanging out and bowling with his buddies, Vietnam veterans Walter and Donnie. Walter is constantly high-strung, aggressive, and ready for a fight, and Donnie, who just kind of minds his own and thinks about other things. And then it turns out there's another Jeffrey Lebowski in the city, who the dude finds out per the repo men coming to collect the debts from the wrong Lebowski. They show up at his house, kick his ass, piss on his rug, and leave. So the dude goes to give the other Lebowski a piece of his mind and ask for a new rug, where he and his friends get snatched into a whirlwind of schemes by the Big Lebowski. A whirlwind of schemes the dude wants nothing to do with, and it takes him on a journey of discovery and hallucinogens. Now that I've sold you, please go watch it for yourself before I tell you everything that happens. You definitely will not regret it. So, now that you've hopefully seen the movie, I want to take a closer look at some of the things I think make the Big Lebowski and his companion so fucking delightful. But first, let me play devil's advocate for a minute. As far as visions go, I think the Coens pretty much had theirs fully realized here, and kudos to them on that. But the thing about that vision is that it's really, really different. Naturally, some people will see that and say, wow, perfect, my life has changed forever. Let me form a goddamn religion. But like many different things, it is bound to make people say, what? What is going on? And that's not an entirely unreasonable reaction. In addition to everything in the world they've crafted being so over-the-top and openly bizarre, the story isn't really structured or framed like a normal story. Massive plot points and developments are hinted at or even outright promised, and then they just never happen. This is, like everything else in the film, purposeful, but that purpose is hard to catch at first viewing. I've had many people in my life go into this movie excited for an epic crime movie full of action and revenge and whatever, and leave honestly disappointed. I, upon first viewing, was quite frankly one of these people. It wasn't until later viewings when I really got it, and I will explain to you what it is I saw. Good comedy dialogue sounds like this.
Let me understand. You got the hen, the chicken, and the rooster. The rooster goes with the chicken. So who's having sex with the hen?
Talk about it another time.
But you see my point here? You only hear of a hen, a rooster, and a chicken. Something's missing.
Something's missing, all right.
They're all chickens. The rooster has sex with all of them.
That's perverse. So has anybody seen Firestorm?
Great comedy dialogue sounds like this.
Forget it, Donnie, you're out of your element.
Walter, the Chinaman who peed on my rug, I can't go give him a bill. So what the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck are you talking about? The Chinaman is not the issue here, dude. I'm talking about drawing a line in the sand, dude. Across this line, you do not. Also, dude, Chinaman is not the preferred nomenclature. Asian American, please.
Now, that first clip was a well-structured, thought-out joke. Now, why is it trumped by John Goodman swearing? It's because it feels real. When you're bantering with your friends, do you sound like this?
Bazinga.
Or like this?
Dude.
Part of the Coens' directing genius is their unstoppable ability to make an environment feel authentic and alive. Instead of speaking in comedic beats like they were scripted to, a Coen character is far more likely to talk in short, often profane, funny little phrases that come across as genuine conversation. Now, why is this particularly relevant in The Big Lebowski? Because taking place amongst the bachelors on the sad streets of Los Angeles, you wouldn't imagine the conversation to be particularly distinguished. So it isn't. This allows the characters, over the top as they are, to exist realistically in their massiveness, not to mention the fact that it is really damn funny. And speaking of that sad side of Los Angeles, everything in the Lebowski world is made to feel alive. This really speaks to the level of painstaking detail that the Coens are willing to put into constructing said world. Instead of having the gang go and see a movie, or just have their discussion in a diner, they have them go and support their friend's interpretive dance show. Instead of having them show up at Larry's house and having him be a rude little asshole, he's the son of Walter's favorite television writer, who happens to be comatose in the living room. Choices like these make the Los Angeles and the characters within it feel richer, with a deeper history than just happening to flash into existence when the camera turned on. When Walter gets excited about meeting his idol in writing, it shows him as a person with more interests than just shouting about Vietnam. When the boys go and watch their buddy Marty prance around the stage like Puck, it makes them sympathetic characters who go support their friends' ill-fated art endeavors, like so many of us do. And it gives the environment a life, rich with places, people, and events that don't just start and stop based around our characters, as many movies unfortunately seem to. The world is so rich, in fact, that it's been honestly able to spark wider discussion. When you think of the most debated movies in history, these debates almost always revolve around what exactly the movie is meant to be about. Movies like The Shining, Donnie Darko, and Monsters vs. Aliens have the power to make people debate the underbelly of their messages and themes, and The Big Lebowski has the power to both be a classic, light comedy for those who just want to laugh at Steve Buscemi, but also to be a mystery to be unraveled for those of us who are looking for a new project ever since Lost ended in 2010. Lebowski is packed with metaphorical imagery, puzzling throwaway lines, and potential red herrings that could drive Matthew Patrick into a frenzy. And the beauty of this is that so many different interpretations can be driven from these meticulously crafted details. I've seen people argue that this movie is a modern retelling of Alice in Wonderland, that it's a dark portrait of a world taken over by women, that Donnie is actually dead the whole time, whatever else you can think of. And the beauty of it is that though you don't have to necessarily believe these things, it's hard to provide evidence that disproves their legitimacy. The movie is frankly the closest you can get to abstract and still be marketable, and that gives the film a longevity that most movies don't have on account of people seeing what they want to in the film. Your interpretation of the movie is what matters, because it reflects what you deem important in a film. I know what I think the film is about, and I will stand by it, which leads me to my most important talking point, what I personally think The Big Lebowski is about. Earlier in my review, I talked about how the first time I saw The Big Lebowski, I didn't really get it. I knew I liked what I saw, but I was confused about what it was I saw. The whole movie promises this giant climax, an epic confrontation between all these debating parties. Instead of all clashing, all the different threads are resolved in their own maintained ways. The dude sleeps with Maude, Bunny Lebowski comes back, and the nihilists get their asses kicked by Walter. The only major loss is Donnie, who dies not at the hands of the nihilists, but of natural causes. So, what gives? Upon further viewing and some reflection, I elected that Lebowski isn't a film about a story or events, but about a philosophy. A thesis about modern masculinity and a fulfillment in an unfulfilling world. Sam Elliott's character, who I refer to as the man, bleeds cowboy. He feels like a personification of the Clint Eastwood archetype you saw so much in classic cinema. Now that archetype is characterized from drifting from place to place, doing what they think is right with a can't-be-bothered attitude. The classic badass. With that in mind, what are we meant to draw from the man's appraisal of the dude that frames the movie? I mean, we begin and end with him calling the dude a hero, when for all intents and purposes, the dude really doesn't do all that much. The whole movie, we see people praising the dude's genius, when really he just seems to be drifting from place to place based on what he's told, occasionally acting on personal morality, but for the most part trying to mind his own business and take it easy. But ultimately, that leads El Duderino to come out on top. Coincidence?
I think not!
Look at the people around them. Everyone who stands for something in the movie ends up being made a fool of. Mr. Lebowski is characterized by his constant desire for progress and to be an affluent and respectable person, but he ends up getting bested by his trophy wife and shown up by his own daughter. Walter is so caught up in his military past that he ends up alienating himself and digging himself a hole of sadness and disappointment. organized religion is subtly lampooned, and even the active refusal of ideology and purpose is entirely rejected through the nihilists, who just appear as goofy, greasy thugs throughout the length of the movie, putting too much effort into not caring. The three people who make out the best are the people characterized by truly not caring. Obviously there's the dude, who comes out unscathed from the mess of trouble he gets roped into, and comes out with everything he wanted from the process: a new rug and more time to bowl with his buddies. Maud, who, instead of pursuing wild schemes like the rest of the kooky rich folk around, takes solace in art, becoming a truly independent woman in the process, also gets what she wants: her father taken down a peg, and a child she can raise on her own terms. And even more time to express herself through art and goof off with her friends. And finally, there's Donnie. Donnie spends the entire movie spacing out and bowling, just happily coasting until he quite literally drops dead. So what is the movie trying to tell us through all of this? Lebowski's lifestyle, though frowned upon by many different characters over the course of the movie, is characterized as wise and fruitful, bringing him nothing but success. Through this, the movie rejects the application of purpose to the human experience, including the active acknowledgement of a lack of purpose. The movie espouses the lifestyle of doing what you want to do, not rejecting purpose, but simply shrugging it off, allowing you to live a lifestyle of bowling, casual sex, and making and appreciating art, because in the end, no grand story or wild scheme is going to change the inevitable. TLDR, life's bullshit and a waste of time. Enjoy yourself before you drop dead of natural, uninteresting causes like Donnie. And this is why the dude is a hero. He coasts through life, avoiding inconveniencing people, but occasionally standing up for his morals, and mostly just chills out, listens to good music, supports his buddies, gets inebriated, and...
Well, the dude abides.
Abides. A modern cowboy. The perfect life. And according to the man, the way we should all be living. This is why this movie speaks to so many people. This is what gave the movie its own religion. This isn't a movie about a story, that's secondary. It's a movie about characters, and it's a movie about philosophy. Dudism, abiding, just hanging out. And it turns out people love that shit a lot, myself included. Great movies with great messages can have a great impact. And that's what I think this is. What do you guys think? What do you think about The Big Lebowski? What do you think about its potential hidden meetings? What do you think of my video? I mean, you can tell me if it sucked, just be honest. I need real feedback. Don't just tell me that it sucked or rocked, tell me why, and I will grant you great riches. But either way, I'll be back soon to talk about more crazy media bullshit that makes me happy. So, I'll check in with you then.